So today's video is unofficially brought to you all by Band-Aids, specifically the Tough Strips, and Body Glide. For any of you endurance athletes out there, chafing is an uncomfortable issue. What I have found for running in particular to be super effective is Body Glide to prevent chafing, particularly around the thighs, and Band-Aids to be really helpful to prevent chafing and bleeding on my nipples. Now, maybe TMI, some of you runners out there may have had experiences where you've gone for a long run and looked down at the end only to find that you've bled through your shirt. That has happened to me. So Band-Aids and Body Glide go a long way. The sun is out, a beautiful afternoon. We'll go out and get our steady state run in. So let's get out there. When you hear the term runner's high, people who run a lot describe the feeling as equivalent to that of being high on something else. I won't speculate as to what, but it must feel good. Physical fitness is one part of my journey that I'm hoping to capture through this channel, but an equally, if not more important, part of the journey is personal growth in other areas. And one of the areas I've really been working hard at, but have plenty of room to go, is as a parent. I've always known that I wanted to have kids. There's never a question in my mind. You know, Ian and I dated for a few years, got married, and it was a couple of years before our daughter was born. I could not have been more overjoyed when she arrived. I mean, obviously we were incredibly sleep deprived, but me, as someone who's always been able to follow a program and stick to it, found the first couple of years of our daughter's life to be easy is not the right word, but manageable. Oh, hang on. I got this big hill we gotta get up. To be continued. Like I was saying, those first 18 months or so with my daughter, I found I was able to get into a nice groove and rhythm. My son was born when my daughter was about 18 months old, so a year and a half apart. We had two kids under two kids in diapers at the same time. Difficulty level kicked up a notch, but still, even with my daughter, or my son, in the mix, I still felt like super dad. You know, by the time the pandemic rolled around, my son was still just barely a year and a half. My daughter is not yet 3, so I felt like I got this down. Bring it on. But over the last 2 or 3 years, I've actually found that I've struggled more as a dad. You know, obviously as kids enter toddlerhood and they get to that three-nager age, they start to express themselves a lot more, and they're very emotionally volatile, not able to regulate their emotions, which is, of course, totally developmentally appropriate for that age, but nonetheless means lots of tantrums, requires a different language, different set of tools, different set of skills, and I've really struggled at times to communicate with my kids on their level. So I had a pretty shitty parenting moment, it's pardon my language, but I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Pretty terrible parenting moment yesterday where, you know, my son, who's 5 now, he was a little tired and cranky after school. A long day. And was just expressing his frustration the only way he knew how, and was yelling at my wife and tried to kick her a few times. And I, in that moment, wasn't really able to control myself. I stepped in and just started yelling at him. In fact, I was so upset that it's almost like I lost consciousness for a minute and just screamed at him. He was terrified, not surprisingly. Started crying hysterically and asking for a hug. And as my therapist would say, I was so in the red zone that I was unable to give my son what he needed in that moment, which was a hug from his dad. And you know, I stayed there with him for a couple minutes while he cried and screamed, recognizing that I had gone too far. I didn't say anything more, but I nonetheless couldn't give him what he needed. My son's room has a camera in it that we've used as a baby monitor since they were both infants. And the camera had recorded the whole incident. And so, sure enough, play the video. Audio was a little hard to hear, but even just seeing my body language and how my son reacted to it, it's just made me feel really embarrassed. And you know, in that moment, I failed him as a parent. I think why it upsets me so much is, as a kid, my mom at times could be very verbally abusive, and I don't think she realized it at the time. Certainly as a kid, I didn't recognize it for what it was, but I remember as a kid, 8, 9, 10 years old, thinking, why did my mom have me if this is how she's going to treat me? You know, it's an awful way to feel as a child. So watching myself on camera behave in a way that probably very closely mimicked what, or maybe it was even worse than the way my mom would talk to me sometimes, it's just really hard to see. Now, I know it would break my heart if I found out someday that my kids felt the same way that I had when I was their age. So, you know, pretty dark moment for me. Ian and I talked about it, and this is one of those moments where I think it'd be easy for me to go down a path of, God, you know, I screwed up again. I'm a piece of crap. Like, here I am, this big guy yelling at this 5-year-old kid. Like, what kind of man does that? And just go down this spiral of negativity, or acknowledge it for what it is. Pretty shitty moment as a parent, and try to learn and grow from it. And maybe that means I need to go back to therapy, deal with anger management. As hard as it is to tell your 5-year-old you were wrong, that's what I had to do. I think it's okay to show our kids that we make mistakes. You know, mom and dad aren't perfect, and if we do make mistakes, we face them head on and we apologize. Try to fix the mistake as best we can. So the night ended fine. You know, I tucked him into bed and he was in a good mood, and I know kids are resilient, and that experience isn't going to destroy my relationship with him, but you know, it's still scary. Now, I share this story. I don't need anybody feeling bad for me or any of that, but I know for a fact that there are many parents out there who deal with the same challenges, and particularly for dads, there aren't necessarily a lot of safe spaces in which to talk about them. In general, moms form a stronger bond and stronger community with one another, whereas I think dads often fend for themselves. So, you know, I'm not embarrassed about seeking out therapy. It's helped me process a lot of my childhood, from my difficult relationship with my mom to bullying I dealt with at school and how that affected my confidence. It was incredibly helpful. All right, on the day's work. So file that one away in the bucket of parenting lowlights. But all I can do is go forward, right? And just work harder to be more present with my kids, really in tune with my own emotions, because ultimately if I can't even keep my own emotions in check, how in the world can I expect my 5 and 6-year-old kids to do so, right? So whether it's fitness, whether it's in the professional realm, or on the home front, you know, there's always room for improvement. It's so much easier said than done, but be kind to yourselves. We are our own worst critics. Till next time, take care of yourselves. Keep chasing. Peace.